Hi guys, welcome. So today we're going to be changing out some components of my water system. So if you're new to the channel, or maybe you didn't watch any of the water system videos that I've done, I've gone through it pretty extensively, but basically we get city water here. And our city water is hard and it contains chlorine. And for washing cars, you really want water with 0 dissolved solids. And then also separately for your household, you really don't want hard water. It's hard on your faucets and fixtures and sinks and tubs and tile and everything else. So what we have behind me, this is a water softener, a HEG softener. And then that softens water for the entire house with the exception of the sprinklers that get water before this. And then for the car washing, I go through a sediment filter, a carbon filter, a reverse osmosis, a deionization system, and I store water here for my pressure washer. Not really going to get into that in this video. There was a previous one that I did where I went through it pretty extensively. I will link to that so you can go and watch that if you have any questions, and you can feel free to comment down below as well. Today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing a new water softener system. And the reason that I'm doing that is because the HEG system that I have, I rent. Many water treatment companies will allow you to rent equipment from them instead of buying equipment. And I did that as a temporary thing years ago, and now it's been long enough that I just want to buy my own system. So I worked with this company, Aquasure, and I purchased one of their Harmony softeners, and that's what this is. So the Harmony comes in a couple different sizes. The size that I ended up going with is the 64,000 grain size. And the way that you determine the sizing, I'd say the easiest way is just to call them. But if you know the amount of hardness that your water has, and you can figure that out either by doing a test. The tests are available at Home Depot and other hardware stores, or you can, there are tables where you can look them up. Those tables are only so accurate though, so you should just note that they might not be perfect. But there are tables where you can look it up. And our hardness is somewhere in the 14 to 20 grains per gallon range. And then we have a 4-person household. We use about 300 gallons a day, 325 gallons a day, somewhere in that neighborhood. We can find that out from our water bill. So if you're using 300 gallons per day, and your hardness is, we'll say 20 on the high side, then that's about 6,000 grains per day. So something like this 64,000 grain unit will regenerate and recycle once every 10 days or so. And the systems are kind of smart enough to know when they need to regenerate, but just, you don't want to oversize it and you don't want to undersize it. I am slightly oversized. I would have been exactly perfect at the 48,000, but I just went one size up from what was perfect for me. And then that way I have a little bit of extra capacity because I do car washing and some other stuff as well. All right. So we've unpacked everything. I ordered this yesterday, it arrived today. I'm in California though, and they're also in California. I ordered it from Home Depot, but they drop shipped from the manufacturer. So this is the actual unit that does the softening. This other container here is where the salt is stored. It's the brine tank. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the installation. This is about 800 bucks, give or take. You'll need a couple other parts from Home Depot, regular plumbing fittings and stuff like that. So we're going to get everything set up. We're going to assess the parts that we need, and then we'll go and get the parts and come back and finish the setup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the control valve. So there's a cap here that we're going to unscrew, just like that. And this has resin in it to attach the bypass valve onto the control head. So this is the bypass valve here. That's going to get attached to the control head, which is this unit here. They actually build this to be modular. So this goes in, and they have different size of these yokes. This is the 1 inch. They do have a 3/4 inch as well. So depending on what size your plumbing is, you might need the other size. I actually ideally would have a 3/4 inch. Because I ordered it from Home Depot, it came with a 1 inch. So installing this yoke is pretty easy. There are these 2 metal plates with screws. You just unscrew them, and then this pushes on in these O-rings, and then you just screw this back in. Pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. So we'll screw this in. So there is this filter that goes on like this. And it sits right here, and it quarter turns like that. And then, okay, and then we'll screw this into the tank like that. You want it tight, but you don't want to break it, right? So just like that. Now the head is screwed in. So I went and picked up some fittings. So on the back of this is 1 inch threaded. Coming out of my wall is 3/4 inch copper. So I did a 1 inch to 3/4 reducer with a 3/4 90, a street 90, which means that one side goes in and one side goes out, and then a small piece of 3/4 inch pipe. And then I'm actually going to use PEX to make the section between here and the wall. And I'm just doing that because I'm not the best plumber when it comes to soldering pipes, and that's a little bit harder to do than this here that I just did. I did this off camera. Again, I'm not the best plumber, so I don't want to show people how to do it the wrong way if I messed something up. So anyway, so we've got our 3/4. The one thing that I don't really love is how far off the back this ends up being, and this is really about as short as you can make it. I suppose if you had a 3/4 90, maybe it would be slightly shorter if this was 3/4 thread, or if you had a 1 inch 90, but still, like, you can't really get much shorter than that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect this guy. To do that, I'm going to have to go and shut off the main water for the house and then drain the system. So we're going to work on that now. All right, so I went and shut my water off, and now I'm going to use the garden hose here and drain the water out of the system as much as I can. And then we can start moving some of this stuff out of the way. So coming out of my wall, I have 3/4 inch copper. I'm just going to cut this off flush, and I'm going to use shark bite fittings to connect here. And this is my drain. So we'll disconnect that. With most of this, you're going to end up with a mess. Check. All right, so we've got the unit plumbed, connected. So here's kind of how this works. Inlet from the house, or inlet from the street in this case, comes in, and there is an on-off valve. So this is my, I need to shut everything off from inside the house valve. I obviously have one at the street where I can turn off my entire water to the house altogether if I need to. So that goes into the inlet. Now the inlet is actually on the right side on this tank. It was on the left on my other one. So that's why I had to go down and up instead of just being able to kind of cross over. So I went down, over, up, and I'm into the back here. I already showed you guys the fittings, but basically I'm using 3/4 inch PEX with a shark bite, right angle shark bite. I've got a bend, 90-degree bend into, this is a straight coupler, street 90, 1 inch threaded. It's a lot of fittings. I wish I had less, but I just don't have the right fittings to make it happen, and neither do any of the hardware stores near me. On the output side, it's the same thing. So 1 inch threaded, street 90, straight coupler, another bend. That comes back to here. That comes back to here. You can see the right angle. I've got a T this time, so that feeds the house. The house is on the other side of this wall. And then this is going to be my garden hose bib. Now I'm going to screw this to the wall. I just need to put a block or something like that behind it to hold it in. And I need to heat up this pipe a little bit so that I can bend it back. But the unit is installed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to power the unit on and get it all set up. So I've turned my water on, I've tested for leaks, and I have no leaks, which is remarkable. I honestly can't believe it, but I have no leaks somehow. So what we're gonna do here, this has like a, that's interesting. There's like a door here and the buttons are below it. That's kind of nifty. Okay, so next thing I have to do is I have to fill up my brine tank. So the brine tank is this plastic container right here. It's about 3 feet tall, and this gets the salt and some water in it to start. Now I have the brine tank from my old system sitting here as well, so I'm just gonna dump the salt and the water that's currently in that brine tank into this one, and and I only got a little bit on my shoe. Yay. So at this point, we're ready to turn the system on and program it. So we plug the unit in. Screen will display time of day, gallons remaining, and the regeneration mode. Press and hold the cycle button for 5 seconds until you see the words 92 BW, and then release the cycle button, and the backwash will be underway. So to start this up, I'm going to press the cycle button for 5 seconds until I see the words 92 BW. 2, 3, 4, 5. 92 BW. The backwash cycle will be underway. Once the valve is in the backwash cycle, you'll see the 15-minute countdown next to BW. This process will begin to purge air from the resin tank and fill the resin tank with water, allowing the air to escape to the drain line. The water to the drain line will eventually start to run clear after 3 to 4 minutes. After the backwash, you will see the system move into the brine draw. The brine draw is 60 minutes total and will normally draw out salt water within 20 to 30 minutes, leaving the rest of the time for the salt water to bond with the resin. After the BD, the rapid rinse, RR will start for a duration of 10 minutes. Allow the entire cycle to run so that the resin is rinsed clean. So I'm gonna have to come back. All right, so it took about an hour, but it finished the brine rinse cycle. It flushes the resin, it draws water out of here, then it refills the resin, then it does a rinse, and then it fills this tank back up with water when it's done. So the process is pretty easy to do. The next thing that we have to do is we have to program the unit. So we're gonna do that right now. To do that with the unit at the main screen, you just press these two buttons at the same time, the enter and the up arrow. And the first thing it'll say is set time. So we're gonna hit enter to adjust the time. And then the hours starts flashing. It is currently 6:52 p.m. So 18:52. And really, it just needs to know the time so that it knows when to do the rinse. So the next thing is to set the type. So we are going to pick time metered. So there are 3 different options here. There is time metered, there's timer, and there's meter. So timer will do, basically you say, hey, every 7 days I want you to automatically regenerate. Whether we've used 100 gallons or 1,000 gallons, I want you to do it every X amount of hours. Metered means I'm going to say, after I've used 1,000 gallons of water, say 1,000 is a number, after I've used 1,000 gallons of water, immediately regenerate at that time. Time meter says that after I've used X amount of gallons of water, that night regenerate. So that's the default, that's the one that they're recommending, and that's the one I'm gonna stick with. So the next option is unit of measurement. So we're going to hit that, and we're going to leave it on gallons. Then it's going to ask us to set the water capacity. To set the water capacity, you need to do a calculation. Pretty easy thing to do. There's actually a website here. You can go to Aquasure's website. There's a calculation tool right on their website. For me, the number is going to be 2,800. So basically what we're doing here is we're saying the size of this unit is a 64,000 grain unit. And I'm estimating that I'm going to have 20 grains per gallon of hardness, which is on the high side. So you take the 64,000, you divide it by the 20, you end up with 3,200, and then you take what a normal day of consumption would be. So for me, I'm gonna overestimate that at 400. A normal day for us is probably around 350. So I'm gonna set this to 2,800. So what that means is when we have consumed 2,800 gallons of water, that night, it's going to do a regeneration. So if I hit 2,800 gallons first thing in the morning with a shower or something like that, I would still have that buffer of approximately 400 gallons before I've hit my capacity. And realistically, if my hardness isn't actually 20 grains per gallon, if it's a little bit less, then I would have extra capacity there too. But I'm gonna overestimate because ours varies somewhere between 15 and 20. So option 4, regeneration time and hours override is, it's going to automatically do it at 2 a.m. and there is no override where it's going to do it after a certain length of time. So I could say like, hey, you know, after 72 hours, if I haven't hit the 1,000 gallons, just do it anyway. So I'm not going to do an override because we use a fair amount of water. So this will work out. We'll probably hit this every 10 to 12 days. The next thing is backwash time. So for this, they recommend keeping it at the default setting. Brine rinse time, recommend at the default setting. So this allows you to say like, if I want the backwash to take longer than 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes, you can adjust those parameters. The next one is rapid rinse time. We're gonna leave that at the default. And then the next thing is water filling time to fill up this tank. We're going to leave that at the default. And then we're back to setting our time. So when we are done, all right, so if you enter through the last one, number 8, it'll bring you back to the main menu. All right, so basically what this is saying now is I'm in normal operating mode. I have a little faucet here. It says 2,800 gallons left. So that's how much water I have until it's going to regenerate. We can waste some water here. Let me just spray it in here. Okay. So there is an indicator on the screen that will show us when the water is running. It's a little water drop here. And you see that now this changed to $27.99, so that's what I have remaining. So all in all, this is the end installation. So I've got the PEX in, I've got the shutoff valve in, I have no leaks, remarkably, I have no idea how. And then as far as the other connections are concerned, we have water in to the inlet side, which is over here, water out to the rest of the house. I have a hose bib here, so this will be softened water, anything that's connected to this. This one here goes into my reverse osmosis system, so that's something you might not have. And then these two hoses that are coming off of the side, this blue one here goes to the brine rinse, the little blue indicator, and the orange one back here, that's the drain. So this does have to drain in order to do its backwash process. We have a drain already installed. It actually goes up and drains into our laundry room, into the drain behind the washing machine. But that's what this connector right here is in the wall. So we've shortened up all the hoses. This is where this is going to live. See here that I use these PEX. They're a 90-degree bend or 90-degree arc maker. Like it's a piece of plastic that kind of goes around the PEX and makes it into a tight 90. And then I screwed that to the wall. So the PEX is screwed to the wall, but if I want to, I can remove those two screws and I could slide this whole unit out and we could service it. As far as the overall appearance is concerned, I like the black a lot better than the beige that I'm used to. I still have some cleanup things that I need to do. That'll be a tomorrow task. Like the block of wood that I connected the water spigot to, that needs to be painted gray to match the wall, just like I did with this and this. The floor here is raised, so I've got Swiss tracks up to this line, and this is kind of raised up like an inch or two where all of the water stuff is. So because of that, I don't have Swiss tracks on this floor. But you can see that it's kind of peeling up the epoxy that I did, and where the old water system was, it wasn't epoxied underneath it. So tomorrow I'll move the brine tank out of the way and I'll epoxy that as well, and we'll make sure that everything is good. At the end of the day, I feel like this is a pretty simple installation. I'm not a plumber. I'm really comfortable with electrical. I'm kind of comfortable with plumbing, but I'm not a plumber. I obviously did shark bites and some easier things, PEX. It's easier to work with. I did have to sweat a couple fittings and solder them. If I had the right fittings, I could have not done that. And there was a way to do it with the shark bite fittings, but it would have been a lot longer coming out from the wall. And my Home Depot and my minor Ace Hardware, they didn't have the right fittings to make it work. So I did make 3 trips to the hardware store. You know, the first one to get everything I thought I needed, the second one to get the 1-inch adapters when I realized this is 1 inch and not 3/4, and then the third one to get another 90 when I decided that I was going to kind of poke this in the corner instead of having it right in front of those pipes. I am happy with the installation and how it looks. It was fairly easy for me to do. I spent about 3 hours on this in total. That includes the last 2 trips to the hardware store, which is about 15 minutes round trip. And that does include waiting for the cycle to run. So I started about 3 o'clock. It's about 6, maybe close to 7 right now. So all in, I think it's a pretty easy thing to do. I think it's something that anybody could probably tackle if they are comfortable with plumbing, especially if you do like PEX and shark bite. And if you have PEX already in your garage, like my garage is kind of set up for there to be a water system. This loop was already here before we moved in, and the drain was already here before we moved in. It just wasn't in use. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I thank you very much for watching. I will put a link in the description to this system. It will not be an affiliate link because it will either be Home Depot or Aquasure directly. But I think it's a really nice system and I like the way that it looks and the installation and the overall fit and finish and quality of it. Time will tell how it holds up, but it does have a 5-year warranty as long as I register it on Aquasure's website, and Aquasure is in California. I ordered this yesterday. Like yesterday around 10 a.m. and it arrived today at noon. So that's pretty remarkable. So that's all I've got. Thank you very much. Have a great day.